I ate my brother on the 43rd day. Not all at once. Not like some kind of rabid animal tearing into flesh. I was methodical about it. Clinical, even. I started with his left calf because it was already exposed from where the frostbite had turned the skin black and cracked like dried leather. I told myself it was mercy, that he was already dead, that the cold had taken him hours before my teeth did. But that's not entirely true, is it? My name is Nathan Reeves, and I'm recording this on my phone with whatever battery life I have left. If you're hearing this, I'm either dead or something much worse. And you need to understand something right now, right here at the start. Whatever you think you know about hunger, about desperation, about what a human being is capable of when pushed to the absolute edge of survival, you're wrong. Because there's a hunger that goes beyond starvation. A hunger that doesn't live in your stomach, but in the hollow spaces between your thoughts. And once it gets inside you, once it whispers your name in a voice that sounds like wind through dead trees, you don't come back. You become something else. It started 3 months ago. My brother Danny and I were experienced outdoorsmen. We'd done the Appalachian Trail twice, spent winters camping in Montana, even did a month-long trek through the Yukon. But northern Quebec in January? That was supposed to be our masterpiece, our magnum opus. Two brothers conquering the brutal wilderness where the old Cree legends were born. We should have listened to those legends. The first week went perfectly. Pristine snow, clear skies. We made good time, covering nearly 15 miles a day. Danny was in great spirits, constantly taking photos, talking about the book he'd write when we got back. Man versus Wild, the real story, he kept saying. He had no idea how real it would get. The weather turned on day 9, not gradually, not with warning. One moment we were setting up camp beside a frozen stream, and the next, the sky opened up like something had torn a hole in the fabric of reality itself. The wind came first, not howling, screaming, like thousands of voices all crying out at once in a language I couldn't understand, but somehow felt in my bones. The temperature dropped 40 degrees in less than an hour. We tried to hunker down, waited out in our tent, but the storm had other plans. A gust caught our shelter like a sail and sent it tumbling into the darkness, taking most of our supplies with it. We managed to grab our packs and stumbled through the whiteout, looking for any kind of cover. That's when Danny saw the cabin. He grabbed my arm, shouting over the wind, pointing at the dark shape barely visible through the snow. We ran for it. The door was unlocked. We fell inside, slamming it shut behind us, gasping for breath in the sudden silence. The cabin was wrong from the moment we entered. I can't explain it better than that. The dimensions seemed off. Too long, too narrow. The windows were higher than they should have been, and the corners of the room seemed to curve away into shadow. even though our flashlights should have illuminated everything. And the smell, God, the smell, like meat left out in the sun for weeks. But underneath that, something else, something sweet and rotten and almost familiar. But we were alive. We had shelter. That's what mattered. The storm lasted 6 days. By day 3, we'd eaten all of our remaining food. By day 5, we were melting snow and drinking it just to feel something in our stomachs. Denny stopped talking, just sat in the corner, staring at the far wall where someone had carved symbols into the wood. Spirals and crescents and stick figures with too many limbs. I should have recognized them. The warnings. On day 6, the storm finally broke. We should have left immediately. We should have walked out of that door and never looked back. But Danny was weak, dehydrated, and hypothermic. He needed rest, he said. Just a few more hours. I agreed because I was tired too, because the cabin, despite everything wrong about it, felt safe compared to the endless white outside. That night, I heard it for the first time. Footsteps on the roof, slow and deliberate, heavy enough to make the wooden beams creak, but light enough that I thought I might be imagining it. Then the scratching started. Long, dragging sounds like something with claws was testing the strength of the wood. Danny heard it too. I could see it in his eyes, the way they went wide and white in the darkness. "Nathan," he whispered, "what is that?" I didn't answer because I didn't know. I didn't want to know. The scratching stopped. For several minutes, there was only silence and our ragged breathing. Then came the voice. It spoke in Danny's voice. "Nathan," it called from outside. "Nathan, I'm so cold. Please let me in." I looked at Danny. He was right next to me, his mouth clamped shut, his whole body trembling. "Nathan, please, I'm freezing out here. I'm so hungry." The voice was perfect. Every inflection, every subtle tone. If I hadn't been looking right at my brother, I would have believed it was him. "Don't respond," Danny breathed. "Don't let it know we can hear it." But the thing outside knew. Of course it knew. The voice changed, dropped several octaves until it sounded like gravel being ground together. "I can smell you," it said. "I can smell your fear. Your hunger, it calls to me like a song." The scratching resumed, faster now, more urgent. The entire cabin shook. And then it stopped. Complete silence. We waited. Hours passed. When dawn finally came, pale and gray through the windows, we grabbed our packs and left. We didn't look back, didn't check the roof. We just ran into the snow, following what we hoped was south. We got lost immediately. The landscape had changed. Nothing looked familiar. The GPS was dead. Our compass spun wildly, never settling on any direction. We walked for hours, then days, seeing nothing but endless white and skeletal trees that seemed to lean toward us as we passed. Danny started falling behind on day 12. Just need to rest, he kept saying. Just 5 minutes. But we couldn't stop, not with that thing out there. I could feel it following us. Never close enough to see, always just beyond the edge of vision. Sometimes I'd catch movement in my peripheral vision, a dark shape slipping between trees. Other times I'd hear breathing that wasn't Danny's or mine. The hunger got worse. Not just in my stomach, in my head. I started having dreams while I was awake, vivid hallucinations of food, tables laden with roasted meat and fresh bread. I could smell it, taste it. My mouth would fill with saliva, and then I'd blink, and there would be nothing but snow and cold, and Danny's face getting thinner, his eyes sinking deeper into his skull. On day 20, I started looking at Danny differently. I noticed things I'd never paid attention to before. The meat on his bones, the way his muscles moved beneath his skin. When he spoke, I found myself staring at his lips, his tongue, imagining the texture, the taste. I was horrified by these thoughts, pushed them away, but they kept coming back, stronger each time. Day 37, Danny collapsed. Frostbite had taken 3 of his toes. Infection was setting in. He couldn't walk anymore, could barely speak. I tried to carry him, but I was too weak myself. We both knew what this meant. "Leave me," he whispered. "Save yourself." I wanted to refuse. I wanted to be noble. But the hunger was screaming now, not in my stomach, in every cell of my body. I could hear it like a physical sound, a droning buzz that made it hard to think. And underneath it, another voice, the same one from the cabin. "He's already dying," it whispered. "You're just being practical. Survival isn't pretty. Survival is ugly and desperate and necessary." I left him that night while we slept. I walked for 6 days, ate snow, chewed on tree bark. The hallucinations got worse. I saw my mother standing in a clearing, waving at me. I saw my ex-girlfriend beckoning from behind a boulder. I saw Danny, always Danny, walking beside me, talking to me, telling me it was okay, that he understood, that he forgave me. But when I'd turn to look at him, there was nothing there. On day 43, I went back. I told myself I needed to bury him properly, that I couldn't leave him exposed to the elements, but that wasn't why I went back. I knew it then, and I know it now. I went back because the hunger had become unbearable, because every waking thought was consumed by it, because something inside me had broken. And I couldn't remember why eating my brother was wrong. He was frozen solid, curled in a fetal position exactly where I'd left him. His eyes were closed, peaceful almost. I used my knife, started with the calf, like I said. The meat was frozen. I had to thaw it over a small campfire I built. The first bite was the hardest. The second was easier. By the third, I was crying and I couldn't stop. But I didn't stop eating. That was 3 weeks ago. I made it another 40 miles south before I realized something was wrong. The hunger didn't go away. If anything, it got worse. I started looking at the trees differently, at the birds, at my own hands, and I kept seeing things. Movement in the shadows, shapes that were almost human but not quite. And worst of all, I started hearing footsteps behind me that matched my own stride perfectly. When I'd stop, they'd stop. When I'd run, they'd run. Always behind me, always following. Last night, I made camp near a frozen lake. I built a fire and sat watching the flames, trying not to think about food. That's when I saw my reflection in the ice. It wasn't me anymore. The face was too thin, the eyes too large, and when I smiled, the teeth were strange, not my normal friendly smile. Something else. I touched my face. The reflection did the same. But in the firelight, I could see something else. Something standing behind me. Tall and emaciated, with antlers sprouting from its skull, and skin that looked like frost-covered leather stretched over bone. I spun around. Nothing there. But when I looked back at my reflection, it was smiling at me with those strange teeth, and I realized something that made my blood run colder than the wind ever could. The thing hadn't been following me. It had been walking with me, inside me, becoming me. The Cree have a name for what happens when you consume human flesh in the northern forests. When you break the most fundamental taboo, they say a spirit enters you, a spirit of endless hunger that can never be satisfied. They say it transforms you slowly, makes you taller, thinner, gives you strength and speed, but takes your humanity in return. They call it the Wendigo. And the thing about becoming a Wendigo, the really terrifying part, it's not that you lose your mind, it's that you keep it. You remember being human. You remember love and kindness and morality. You just don't care anymore. The hunger is all that matters. The eternal, unsatisfiable hunger that will drive you to hunt and kill and consume for the rest of your unnaturally long existence. I can feel it happening now. My fingers are longer than they should be. My nails are hardening into claws, and God help me, I'm so hungry. Hungrier than before I ate Danny. Hungrier than I've ever been in my life. I'm heading south, toward civilization, toward people. And I want you to understand something. I need you to hear this. I came out here as Nathan Reeves. I was a brother, a son, a human being. But that's not what's coming back. Something else is walking out of these woods. Something that wears my face and knows my memories, but isn't me anymore. Something that's learning to mimic human behavior perfectly. How to smile at the right times. How to make small talk. How to blend in. And how to hunt. The phone battery is almost dead. This recording will be my last act as the person I used to be. A warning, a confession. If you see me, if Nathan Reeves shows up at your door with a story about survival and tragedy and brotherly love, don't believe him. Don't trust him. Don't let him in, because the hunger that walks doesn't just consume flesh. It consumes identity, purpose, and humanity itself. And right now, looking at my reflection in this frozen lake, I can barely remember why eating you would be wrong. The really terrifying part? I'm starting not to care. The following transcript was recovered from a dashboard camera in Schefferville, Quebec, dated February 14th. The recording shows a Tim Hortons parking lot. Timestamp 9:47 a.m. A man enters the frame. He's thin but not emaciated, clean-shaven, wearing new winter clothes. He's smiling, waving at someone off camera. He looks completely normal. He looks like he could be anyone. The man enters the coffee shop. Inside, through the window, he can be seen ordering, laughing at something the cashier says, paying with a credit card. The name on the credit card? Nathan Reeves. He sits down near a family, a mother, father, and 2 small children. He doesn't approach them, just sits nearby, drinking his coffee, watching them with an expression that could be loneliness or longing or hunger. It's impossible to tell which. After 15 minutes, he stands, throws away his cup, walks back outside. As he passes the camera, he pauses, looking directly into the lens, and he smiles. It's a perfect smile, warm, human, completely normal. But if you pause the footage at exactly the right frame, just for a split second, you can see something else in his eyes, something ancient, something hungry, something that's learned to wait. End of found footage. Nathan Reeves was never found. His brother Daniel's remains were recovered 6 months later by a Cree search party. The cause of Nathan's disappearance remains officially listed as exposure and wildlife attack. No further investigation was conducted. In the 3 years since this recording was made, there have been 17 unsolved disappearances in northern Quebec. All victims were last seen accepting help from a friendly stranger matching Nathan Reeves' description. The stranger is never caught on camera clearly, always just out of frame, always just beyond recognition, always watching, and always hungry. I hope you enjoyed this, my first episode of 5 thematically related stories. Stay tuned for the rest, and leave a comment to tell me what you liked or didn't about the story. Until the next Dark Veil tale, have a frightfully fun day.